Sometimes the roster necessitates a change of plan, but what are the pitfalls that the Reds have just opened themselves up to? We'll discuss that on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Reds. We are live today. We are your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. We have a combined 12 years of experience covering the Cincinnati Reds. We love baseball. We love this team, even though it really doesn't ever love us back. But we've taken our love for the game, our love of this team, and we have turned it into information for you. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on today's podcast, we know the Reds played a game last night, and we know they blew yet another lead, and it's really annoying. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But on today's show, Rhett Lowder, he is coming up. We're going to be talking about the Reds' number one 2023 draft pick, who is going to make his major league debut tomorrow against the Brewers. Looks like he's going in game 2 of the doubleheaders for the Redlegs. We're going to talk about his arrival and what to expect from him and what it means for the Reds to be calling him up so early. We're also going to be asking the question, Jeff, can David Bell do no wrong? Because it sure feels like, as far as this front office is concerned, David Bell can do no wrong, or he's got some really good dirt on somebody. And of course, we're going to be taking everybody's questions and comments because we're live here today on Locked On Reds. This is what can happen when I am in the Eastern time zone, sir. We can do a morning time live, which is great. So we're going to get into all of those things today. Before we get started, shout out to the sponsor of today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Jeff, you know what else it's time for? It is time to talk about Rhett Lowder, the Reds 2023 number one draft pick, who you and I sat in a dugout with and talked baseball the beginning of this season in Dayton. And here we are talking about his major league debut tomorrow as the Reds face the Milwaukee Brewers in a doubleheader. So, we hear from the Reds all the time that they're not going to adjust a prospect's timeline based on big league need. And I think they had to throw that out the window because nobody could have possibly anticipated that every single member of the starting rotation from opening day would be unavailable to pitch here at the end of August.
Everybody from opening day, and quite frankly, if you even expand it to what we were talking about in the offseason, the number 6 guy, the number 7 guy, and the number 8 guy, they're all out too. Like, this is a crazy scenario for this team in that they are so depleted in the starting staff. And I am so pumped. I want to start it off by saying I am so pumped to see Rhett Lowder pitching this Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun because this dude is part of the future. This dude is being looked upon to be a key part of the starting rotation moving forward. So I'm excited about that. But I do also want to temper it because there are a couple of questions I have about this now. Because we are opening Rhett Lowder up to the Jose Barrero territory here. But I think there's definitely some differences between the two guys, other than the fact that one was a position player, the other's a pitcher.
Well, you're just talking about from a standpoint of age, right? Early in his minor league career. I think there are some differences. When Jose Barrero came up, we all looked around and we're like, well, he's not ready for this. Like, this is early. I don't know that I don't have that same feeling for Rhett Lowder. If you look at what he's done spread across 3 levels of the minor leagues this season, Jeff, he's really doing a number. Three levels combined at age 22, Jeff. He started 22 games, 108 innings pitched, 113 strikeouts, 24 walks. He is doing an amazing job. That breaks down to those numbers we love. Strikeouts per 9 at 9.4, walks per 9, Jeffrey, 2.
That's a very nice number, very, very tidy number. But I do want to be cognizant of that. And we were kind of discussing before the show began, like, what can we expect from a workload standpoint because in his last year at Wake Forest, he threw a certain number of innings. So we cannot reasonably expect them to just trot him out every fifth day the rest of the season and expect him to go 6 innings every time. And the workload is getting up there. The pitch number is getting up there. So the Reds definitely need to treat this with a little bit more kid gloves. I think we've been hearing this the last couple of years with how young the pitching staff has been. So I don't think it'll come as a shock to Reds fans. But we're not talking about a guy that can make a whole bunch of starts here. This is really a emergency situation. Like, for one moment, before we get back into our Rhett Lowder analysis, consider who's not here. Number one, Frankie Montas. He's going to be pitching for the other team in this series. I think either game 1 or game 2.
Well, it looks like maybe he lines up for Saturday. The chat is telling me, Jeff, that he may be the guy on Saturday for the Brewers.
So we will see him this weekend. Then Hunter Green, Nicoladolo, Andrew Abbott, Graham Ashcraft, they're all on the injured list. Every single one of them. Then you go even deeper. You say, okay, well, Brandon Williamson was your number 6 guy. He's been on the injured list all season. Connor Phillips might have been your 7 guy. He's had a very, 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 very bad year command-wise, although his most recent start shows glimmers of hope because he did not allow a walk. He's been allowing a lot of walks at AAA this season. Lyon Richardson made some
and
starts
before you move
last
on
year.
from Connor Phillips, it would be a disservice to Connor Phillips to bring him to the big leagues this year. Yes. He's clearly been trying to work something out, and he is not ready. He is nowhere near ready for prime time. It would be a tremendous disservice to ask him to come up and get his brains bashed in at the big league level while he's still trying to fix things.
Correct. And then you look at Lyon Richardson, who made starts last year. He has been moved to the bullpen in AAA. So if you're getting moved to the bullpen in AAA, don't believe that the starting staff in major leagues are going to be calling you anytime soon. And there's been a number of other guys that have started games for the bats that I just am not interested in. So the depth is gone. And Rhett Lowder was basically it. That was what I talked about early on this week, Steve. I saw that they were reporting he could have been up as early as Wednesday, and he wasn't, obviously. He's going to be pitching on Friday. But I thought the only reason that there was anybody that was saying that at all is that they were just looking at the Reds' organizational depth chart and be like, well, who's going to pitch? Somebody's got to pitch. I guess it's going to be Rhett Lowder. And yeah, I think that's what Nick Krall did.
Yeah, I think they wrestled with this decision because that news leaked early before any and I can tell you that it leaked before there were any conversations in Louisville. I'll tell you how I know that, Jeff, because for the third time, guys, I've been trying to get Rhett Lowder on this show all season. I've had three interviews scheduled with him during the course of this season. And every time we get a confirmed interview, he gets promoted. I was to sit down with him on Friday, when after he made his last start for Louisville, and instead he's going to be pitching at the big league level. So again, that's not happened. Apparently I'm his good luck charm. I schedule an interview, he gets promoted. But they've been talking about this all week, and I think they were really questioning whether it was the right move or not. Ultimately the need outweighed any of the negatives that could possibly be involved in bringing him up. I will say this, Jeff, you talked about what he has left on his arm. Over the course of his 3 levels this season, he has 108 innings on his arm. Last year at Wake, 2023, he threw 120 innings. It's realistic to me that he could possibly make 4 more starts on top of the 108 innings that he has right now. After that, I think that they should shut him down because big league innings are different than minor league innings, and minor league innings are different than his college innings. So he's already approaching, I would say, probably the wear and tear on his arm that he had the previous season in college. And you want to try and stretch him out a little bit more each year. So I think 4 starts max is what we could expect if he even stays up. Now, if this is a true desperation move, they may start him a game and send him back down. I'm not quite sure what the long-term plan for him is the remainder of this year because the Reds haven't said yet. But either way, it would not shock me. It would not shock me if he's here to finish out the season and make 4 starts, and it would not shock me if he makes a start and goes back down to Louisville.
I think that he is probably making at least 2. We have not heard other than the good news that we heard about Hunter Green, we have not heard a timeline for his return in this current season. We definitely heard that Nick Lodolo's not coming back. We definitely know that Graham Ashcraft's not coming back. Brandon Williamson began a rehab assignment, but I got to believe he's going to be down there for a few more weeks. And then we haven't heard anything about Andrew Abbott either and how quickly he could be back. So we may be looking at Rhett Lowder for at least one more start past this. Who knows? Could be getting to that 3 or 4 before
you just
the Reds
answered. You just answered Williamson and Green. Carrie's asking Jeff for statuses, Williamson, Green, and also Suter. Suter's any day now, right? He's throwing rehab innings right now. Do I have that right?
Yeah, he has been pitching in Louisville for some rehab outings and things like that. It's interesting because I saw a great video, and we'll get into this in the off season because the automatic balls and strike system really intrigues me, the way that they are beginning to employ it. But I saw a video of him throwing. He is doing some rehab down there, so he should be back here pretty soon. But yeah, I think that we are seeing Rhett Lowder here for a couple of starts. What does that mean? What can we expect from Rhett Lowder? What's his pitch mix? What is his, where does he fall within the future ambitions of this rotation? We'll discuss that coming up next. It's time to take a water break here in the episode, but you know what? I got something even better because Liquid IV hydrates you just as good as 2 bottles of water. That's right. I'm going to drink 1 glass of water with Liquid IV, and I'm going to get twice the hydration. Liquid IV's got all these great flavors, too, that enhance your water. You literally turn your water into super water because all you do is you pour a packet into a glass of water, just like I'm doing right here. Stir it up nice and good, and take a nice sip. That, by the way, is their awesome flavor popsicle firecracker. You got to check it out today. You can get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use promo code MLB at checkout. Again, that's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using the promo code MLB at liquidiv.com.
You can take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Jeff and I have talked about this app over and over again. We love this app. We use it all the time. We've been telling you today, there's lots of questions that the Reds can answer the remainder of this season. And if you want to see them answer those questions with your own eyes, use the Game Time app to buy your tickets. The Game Time app has all-in pricing. When you get on there, you're going to know exactly how much you're going to pay for the seat that you're buying. And if you're not familiar with the view from that seat, they have that in the app as well. You can see what it's going to look like from your seat. So Jeff and I, we head down to the banks. We find a good spot. We grab a couple beverages, grab a little bit to eat. And then as it gets close to time for the first pitch, we jump on the Game Time app. We find great deals on our tickets, and then we head on into the ballpark. If you want to get in on this action, just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. That's even in addition to the savings that you already have just by using the app. Terms do apply. Again, create your account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Thank you for making Locked On Reds your first listen today and every day. For your second listen after we're done here today, make sure you check out Locked On MLB, as Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, has you covered every single day for the league-wide news and notes and everything big happening in Major League Baseball. He also sprinkles in his trademark wit and humor in there as well. That's Locked On MLB every single day on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. And speaking of every day, shout out to our everydayers out there. Thank you for joining us on this live show and jumping in the comments section. See a lot of folks down in the comments that we usually do. Great to see you along with us here today. Coming up on our next Locked On Reds podcast, we are going to look at some more things that these Reds can answer throughout the rest of the season, because there are questions that need answering before the offseason begins. And I think Steve and I are of the opinion that we need a miracle on miracle on miracle for this team to get back in the postseason the way that they've been losing. We'll talk more about this loss with Oakland coming up here in a few minutes, because we need to keep talking about Rhett Lowder, because Rhett Lowder is happy.
Hey, before we get into that, I told you people were going to notice I was wearing my glasses today, Jeff. Fast Faces digging the glasses duo today. And then John Hush checks in and says, today's episode is obviously sponsored by Lens Crafters. Yeah, I traveled 36 hours. I'm in Ohio, guys. Traveled 36 hours with my contacts in. That was not a smart play. So we're doing the glasses look today.
They still haven't got that Hyperloop from Hawaii to Cincinnati built
Bro,
yet.
I am waiting for the Concorde to come back. If I could get here in like 5 hours, that would be great.
Need some sort of fast travel system here. They do it in video games all the time. We should be able to do it in real life. Anyway, let's get back to Rhett Lowder, because I am very excited to see him pitch. We talked about, the worries and the consternation that I have a little bit with the quick call up, but I know this, and Kerry Reinert had said it, and I lost the comment. He is a very mature player. And with that, we're talking about a pitcher. This is something that you and I really got a good sense for when we talked to him in the dugout in Dayton last year, and that is that
was this year.
I talked to him last year and this year. Yeah, anyway, time is a flat circle. But I really get the sense that he is a cerebral pitcher. He has great command, because all throughout, and he told us all throughout his career, even going back to high school, he has never been a hard thrower. He has had to shape pitches. He has had to locate pitches. He has had to, outthink hitters and stuff like that for his entire career up to this point. So he has a really good baseline and a really good understanding of how to get outs when he's on the mound.
And putting that in perspective, when you compare him to a guy like Hunter Green, Hunter Green came up throwing gas right out of the gate. And until you reach a certain level in professional baseball, all you have to do is throw that gas. And the opposing hitters just can't catch up with it. They can't do it in high school. They can't do it in college. They can't do it in the low minors. And then only once you start getting close to the majors, you have to start to figure out how to pitch a little bit. Rhett's been figuring out how to pitch since high school. And I like that.
And because of that, he has a pitch mix that is very enticing, at least for me, because we said all off season, we want people who get ground balls on this pitching staff. Rhett Lowder gets ground balls. He's got 4 pitches that he uses, a 4-seamer, a slider. Those are his 2 main pitches. And then he mixes in a sinker and a changeup. And the changeup can sometimes be a swing and miss pitch, but it's mostly his sort of like off the beaten path type pitch whenever he's thrown his other stuff a lot. His big swing and miss pitches are his 4-seamer and his slider, but he doesn't throw them as strikeout pitches. He throws them as just out pitches. People will hit them on the ground. He will not, really force the issue trying to nibble at the corners of the zone and run up his pitch count. I think that is something that we can expect for him moving forward. Now, the question will be, what do major league hitters do with the pitches that he fills up the strike zone with? That will be an interesting thing to see, but I do not expect to see him walking guys, and I do not expect to see a lot of, fly balls that Great American Ballpark can then, do its whole gravity well thing and just pull it out of the field and into the stands for a homer.
Yeah, the nice thing about those 4 pitches, Jeff, is they're all big league ready. None of his pitches right now are works in progress. He throws what he throws, and that's a nice change of pace. Of late, we've had a lot of great pitchers come up, but that all needed to work on something, all needed to add a pitch to get something different. And with Rhett, you get what you get, and that seems to be pretty good. I saw some comparisons earlier this year. I think it was right after they drafted Chase Burns, but there were a lot of comparisons trying to compare Rhett Lowder, Chase Burns to Paul Skeens, and that is an unfair comparison. I want us to not get caught up in that again. We did this with Hunter Green. We did this with Nick Lodolo. We continue to heap all of this expectation on these rookie pitchers when they come up, and we forget that they're rookies and they're facing the best baseball players in the world. And there's going to be an adjustment period. There's going to be times where they struggle, and there's going to be times where they're great. And Paul Skeens kind of just destroyed that model, right? He just came up and obliterated everybody. And that is not the normal. It's the same like what the Reds got last year out of all the position players coming up and all of them performing well. That doesn't happen. That's an outlier. That's not the normal. What is normal is for them to come up and make adjustments and have to get better. And I think that's what we'll see with Rhett Lowder. He'll have periods of being really, really good. He'll have periods where he needs to figure out why guys can hit a pitch that they haven't been able to hit before, and he'll have to make adjustments. But as you say, talking to him, I have all of the confidence in the world that he's smart enough to figure that out. He's going to be able to look at the film. He's going to be able to talk with Derek Johnson and the coaching staff, and he's going to be able to make the adjustments that he needs to make. But If you're expecting him to come up and go 4-0 with a sub-2 ERA, that's an unrealistic expectation, I think.
Yeah, and I think what we can expect, he is a high floor type pitcher. I don't think we're going to see him just get absolutely clobbered and see a ton of like bad outings and, oh boy, get this guy back down to AAA because he doesn't know what he's doing up here. I think he's going to show very quickly that he belongs in the major leagues. The question will be, where is his ceiling? Because I also don't necessarily see him as like a guy that's going to challenge Hunter Green to be an ace of this staff like I see Chase Burns maybe doing one day in a couple of years. But I also don't see him being a guy that you're just like, yeah, whatever, throw him every fifth day and he'll eat up a bunch of innings. I think I see him somewhere in the middle of this rotation. Honestly, a Andrew Abbott who doesn't give up a lot of walks. That kind of a pitcher. And I really think that is going to be a guy that we can really hang our hats on for the next couple of years. There's a reason that we have seen, and this will be our first taste of him in the major leagues, but we have seen a lot of people saying that the rotation of the future, and quite frankly, the future is basically next year, but the rotation of the future for this team is Green, Lodolo, Abbott, Rhett Lowder, and Chase Burns. And Rhett Lowder is going to show us why beginning this Friday.
Well, that's a pretty rotation on paper, Jeff. I'm kind of looking forward to see how that's going to look next year. And if that's the opening day rotation, boy, that's going to be a fun team
It's going to be fun
to watch. But who's going to be guiding that team, Jeff? There are questions surrounding if David Bell should be fired or not. Or we're going to ask the question if David Bell can do no wrong, because as recently as last week, Nick Krall has said David Bell, he's doing a good job. We're going to get into David Bell's performance coming up next.
And the best way to enhance your baseball watching experience the rest of the way is with PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's so easy to use, it's so easy to see why they are the #1 app, because you can literally turn $10 into $1,000 with just 4 picks in your entry correct, because they've got a lot of great boosts and a lot of great modifiers that make it easier to increase your payouts. And all you got to do is you pick your favorite players like Ellie De La Cruz and Tyler Stevenson. You click more or less on your favorite stats like hits, homers, RBIs, total bases, and more, and you see your winnings roll in. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win. You just get that $50 with the code LOCKEDONMLB. PrizePicks. Run your game.
You can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. Also, if you haven't checked it out yet, go over to CincinnatiRedsTalk.com. Check out the written form of coverage of the Reds. Jeff's writing over there, James Rapine, lots of folks popping in and out covering the Reds in written form. Great stuff there. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do so. All right, Jeff, David Bell, he's doing a good job, says Nick Krall. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that assessment. David Bell, he's a bum. Fire him. Fire him yesterday. Get Barry Larkin kicking and screaming, drag him out of the Bowley's booth and put him in the dugout. I don't know if I'm there yet either. What do you think? Should David Bell be fired? Should he be fired immediately? Should he be fired at the end of the season? What do you think?
I know for a fact, and all the reporting has pointed to this, and Nick Krall's comments and all this other stuff, know for a fact he's not getting fired after this year. And for me, the question is, could they do something so bad between now and the end of the season that changes? And I don't know that the answer is no. Like, I don't even know that if they lost every game between now and the end of the season, if they would fire him, because they've already come up with their excuse. This team's too hurt. They've dealt with too many injuries. No Matt McClain, no CES, no starting rotation for a very long time. I mean, it's not been very long, but it feels very long. They're going to come up with all their excuses as to why they did not succeed this year. And that, for me, that for you, that for most Reds fans, is super annoying, because it feels as though the goalposts are different for him. Because I compare this to comments that we've heard from other teams and actions that we've seen from other teams. The Seattle Mariners, Steve, in June were 10 games ahead of the AL West. They collapsed. They are now in second place. The Astros are actually, I think, like 5 or 6 games ahead of them in first place. What did the Mariners do? They fired their manager. The Texas Rangers won the World Series last year, and they are awful this year. They are nowhere near the playoffs. They are nowhere near their division. They're done. And their GM, what did he come on record and say? We've got to rethink what we're doing for this team for next year. It's very clear. Whatever we did this year, not working, we got to change. Now, they didn't fire anybody yet, but I got to believe that means that changes are coming after the season is over. Meanwhile, Nick Kroll is telling us that David Bell's doing a solid job, that, the Reds have really developed Ellie De La Cruz and Hunter Green, and he said that under the context of talking about David Bell's job. It feels as though the Reds have different standards for their managerial staff than other teams do.
Coach D checks in the comment section and saying something that I said on a show maybe 4 weeks ago, Jeff. You'll probably remember this. If David Bell leaves the dugout, it will not be by firing. It will be by promotion. Coach D says promote Bell and give him some kind of title and go out and get a good baseball guy like David Ross. I agree with this 100%. That's who I would go get. Also, by the way, I would love to see them give David Ross a shot here in Cincinnati. It's not going to be Barry Larkin, gang. He doesn't want to be the manager. If at any time Barry Larkin strolls across the concourse to the Castellini suite and says, hey, guys, I want to be the manager, it would happen that day. Barry Larkin doesn't want to do it. So I would go get David Ross. I would promote David Bell to assistant general manager, and that's how I would get it done, because the Castellinis are not going to fire him. He's not going to be fired. This is the only scenario I could see a coaching change with this team, but I don't see them really doing it. Let me ask you this, Jeff. I think you and I are in agreement that it's not going to happen. David Bell's not going to get fired from this organization. If you look at his time here in Cincinnati, should he be fired? Let's not do it as if will they? We know they won't. Should they? Would it make? Has he performed poorly enough? And is it a needle mover enough to fire the coaching staff?
It's interesting because I think if you'd asked me this question before last offseason, I would say he shouldn't have been fired, but he shouldn't get a contract extension. He should be like one of those guys that it's like, yes, you performed out your contract. Thank you. We're going to find somebody else. But they gave him 3 years last offseason. At least the reports are that he got 3 years extended onto his contract. So I don't think, and I think the most annoying thing about David Bell, and the reason that there is such a camp on him, like there's the camp of people that like David Bell has definitely shrunk this year, but there's still a camp of people that like him and a camp of people that hate him, and it's because he is right in the middle. He is not bad, but he's not good either. And I think that he has proven to us that he is the perfect kind of manager that you can give all of the blame and none of the credit to. He is the perfect kind of manager that shows that this is a player-driven game and what your roster is. And I know Sparky Anderson said this 50 years ago, that it's all about the players on the field and not about the guy that's telling them to do what they do. But he is never going to be that guy that adds wins to your win total. But I also don't think that he's going to be that guy that costs you losses either. And that's what makes him so annoying, is that the evaluation on him is he is perfectly in the middle and there's nothing wrong with him, but there's also nothing that is substantial and exceptional about him either.
You know who spun me around on this was our buddy Mo Edgar. One of the times we had him on where, he basically asked the question, well, you fired David Bell. Who are you going to go get? Who are they going to replace him with? Is it a David Ross type guy? I think he could be a bit of a needle mover, but the answer is it's more than likely they go get another David Bell. They go get another guy that likes the analytics, that will also just kind of roll with whatever the front office throws at them and just kind of does their thing day in and day out. And that's why it doesn't move the needle for me. So, David Bell here, David Bell promoted, unless it's a drastic change in philosophy, I don't think that it really matters. This front office is going to cling to the narrative of, all the guys coming back from injury is the offseason overhaul we've been looking for, right? Same like the guys coming back from injury, that's our offseason acquisition. Trade deadline guy coming back, that's our acquisition. So I think they're going to treat the overhaul the same way, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Thanks to everybody who was in the comments section. You guys made it a great show with us. Always appreciate you joining us for some Reds talk. Make sure that you're subscribed. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And we've even got the Locked On Reds Insiders that you can check out if you text Insider to 513-597-0944. Then we will talk Reds all the time, texting back and forth about it. For a free 14-day trial, $4.99 a month after those 14 days. Again, that's text the word Insider to 513-597-0944. But for Steve and myself, you can always trust that we will be Locked On Reds every single day.
You're going to get a phone call from Matt McClain calling him injury prone.
Get on the field. Prove me wrong.